Hi there, today I'm going to make a carrot, ginger and cumin soup. I'm going to show you guys how to make it. I would normally put coriander, but unfortunately I don't have any in the house, so we're going to do it without. I know a soup can be a very basic thing, but over the years I've seen so many people and a lot of chefs make it wrong. And basically it's all about the foundation, as I'll show you shortly, of how to cook the ingredients at the beginning to maximize the flavors. So here I have some carrots, they're chopped up and washed. Here I have a board with all my aromatics on there. So I have 2 onions, small onions chopped, about 5 or 6 cloves of garlic roughly chopped, and I have some ginger, 2 small bulbs of ginger chopped also. And on this side here, I have some cumin, and I have some smoked paprika, and I have my cooking fat, which is just basically the cheap margarine. I have a pan on the stove here, which is on a medium heat. The very important thing at the beginning for the soup, for any puree based soup, is not to have the heat on too high. You want to gently melt the butter or the margarine, and you don't want to fry the ingredients. You want them to sweat. That means cook them at a low temperature with a lid on, as I will show you, and avoiding to get colour. Especially when you caramelize the carrots, what happens is that they taste burnt and bitter, and they also don't give the natural flavour of the carrot into the soup. So that's a big thing where a lot of chefs go wrong, is that they cook the onions and the carrots and the vegetables too high, or they don't cook it enough, meaning basically it just tastes watery, which I will show you. So first I'm going to turn the extractor fan on. Now I have the carrots. Carrots are going in. It's on a relatively low heat. Should be underneath medium. Yeah. So I have medium is 5, but on 4 at the moment. Obviously I monitor the heat level as it goes. But you want to coat the prime ingredient, which is the carrots. You want to coat it in the fat, and you want to cook it slowly. We're gonna put a lid on for now, and we're just gonna leave it. When you choose a pan to cook with, like this, try to get a pan with holes in the side, like so. So it lets a little bit of the steam out, but what happens is basically it's creating a vacuum. So the steam which is coming up from the carrots is touching the lid, and it's going back down into the carrots. So if I was to cook without a lid, all the flavours will be going into the extractor fan, and I'd be losing it. So basically, we're going to continue. We just keep stirring the carrots every couple of minutes, and we keep the lid on, just so that it's we keep the lid on when we're not stirring it, and we just keep an eye on it to make sure that it's cooking evenly. And then the next thing we're going to do, in this case I'm adding the spices at this stage. It depends on what soup you're making, because this soup has got dry spices in it. I'm doing that first before my fresh aromatic things, because basically onion and garlic and ginger contains water in it. So I'm trying to cook out the dry spices a bit first, in the same way that you would do with a curry. I'm cooking it out a bit first with the to let it blend in with the carrots, and then obviously the whole thing will get like a bit more lubricated once the onions and the garlic comes in a bit later on. Okay, so see, it's cooking away nicely. What we're going to be doing is we're going to cook it until basically the carrot is mushy before we add any liquid to it. But in the meantime, I'm going to add the onions. Now, onions don't burn as easy as garlic or ginger, so I add them in first, and if you notice, they cut larger. So if I add the garlic in really chopped really small, and if I add it in right at the beginning, it burns and gives a bitter taste. So we're keeping the temperature nice and low. We've got it on number 5. We're just going to stir these in. We want to cook the onions till they're translucent before we start adding anything else. So I've been periodically stirring this and keeping the lid on it for quite a while now. As you can see at the bottom of the pan, it's not burning, but it's starting to stick a little bit. So I'm going to turn the heat down slightly. Okay. Obviously it doesn't burn as easily because of the lid on it, which keeps the evaporation inside. We're now going to put the garlic in. Okay. Garlic is chopped a bit bigger than the ginger, so I'm going to keep it in first. I'm going to stir it in. And we're just going to continue with the same process. I'm going to put the lid back on, and every couple of minutes I'm going to keep stirring it. So now we're going to add the ginger. When you look at the bottom of the pan, you can see it's starting to stick a little bit. As long as it doesn't burn, we can just scrape that as we go. If it gets too bad, you can put a drop of water and that will clean the bottom of the pan. But because we've had the heat on so low, shouldn't really be necessary. Shouldn't burn. But that's basically the spices at the beginning. Like I was saying, we add the spices, we cook out the spices in the same way as you would do in a curry before you add the onions and garlic and ginger. I'm going to stir this in, the ginger, and go back to the lid on top. Okay, as I mentioned, we keep an eye on the bottom. It's starting to burn a little bit, so I've turned it down to a number 2, and I'm going to put a little bit of water, just a little bit, to clean the bottom of the pan. It's not burnt, it's just catching a little bit. And this process is called deglazing. Yeah. So we're going to turn the heat back high, because what we want to do, we want to evaporate that water so that we can continue the cooking process as it was. So if you see, all the stuff that was sticking comes off, and that's all flavour, that's all going to be part of the soup. So we'll put a little bit more water in there on this side. And that's on number 9 now, which is the maximum. Just going to take that off the bottom. Okay? But we're still not ready to add the liquid yet. We basically want to really cook this out with no liquid until it's almost like a puree, so that a spoon could push through one piece of the carrot. Because basically, once you add water and you fill up with water, you're not going to get any more flavour into the soup. This part here is the foundation. This part where we're sweating it off and cooking the aromatic flavours with the main ingredient, that's where we get our flavours from. And that's when we keep the lid on, turn the temperature right back down to a number 3, and the lid's on. The steam's rising to the top, coming back down again, infusing into the flavour. And once it's, as I say, once it's soft, then we're going to add water and bring it to the boil. Once it boils, it doesn't need any time at all. We're going to basically boil it and simmer it for a few minutes and then finish it. Some chefs, they just put all the vegetables with cold water, bring it to the boil it all day and blend it, and there's nothing to be obtained. They get no flavour out of that at all. It's wasted. Okay, so now it should be okay. I'm going to check a larger piece of carrot. And question to it, it's cooked through easily. It's almost mashed now, yeah? Which is the right point. Add water. I don't use any powdered stocks. I don't really put leek and celery in a soup. I want it to taste of the core ingredients. So I'll put water and I'll put some salt at this point. Now with salt, chemically it's going to add 1 degree to the temperature. It's going to boil quicker, and I'll turn it up high. I've got the lid back on, I'm going to turn it back high. Basically I'm going to bring it to the boil, and then I'm going to turn it down and simmer it for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're going to basically puree it. Okay, so our soup's come into a boil now. It's on a high heat since I put the water in, so it's on number 9. So now I'm going to turn it down so it cooks slowly. I'm just going to give it a taste so far. It's nice. I'm going to basically now simmer it for about 10 or 15 minutes and then cool it and blend it. One thing, when you re-season something like this, a soup or curry or a stew, you always season it and correct the seasoning at boiling point. Because what can happen is if you put a load of seasoning in before it boils, then you can't actually taste the salt because it's not had time to infuse, and then you bring it to the boil, reheat it, and realise it's really salty. Okay, so we're now ready to blend it. We used to have a stick blender, which would be better, but someone in this house broke it, so I'm going to use liquidizer. Basically, I don't really see the point with this soup. I don't really see the point of straining it afterwards. But if it was with asparagus or something stringy, I would strain it. As you can see, it's now simmering. So this is the time when we correct the seasoning. So we're gonna taste it. Does need some salt. And some pepper. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something from it. This is the finished product. Stay tuned for more. Thank you.